welcome. This is the final night of this 5-night series I'm doing on getting ready to go back to school. Maybe you already started school this week, or you're in orientation if you're in college. Maybe you're an adult going back to school, or you're a parent, educator, or coach. Welcome. Or if you're just a bystander coming in here to see what am I saying about parenting and going back to school. I wrote this little book. It's not very long, but it's pretty powerful. I wrote this book in 2020 when I had a parent. I was inspired when a parent called me and said um, that she had worked with me years before, and she said, my student is really struggling right now in COVID. It was the pandemic. And then she kind of says, I think you should write a book for parents. And at the same time, my mentor, Robert Allen, who, do I have Robert on this? Yeah, I actually have a quote from him on the top of my page here. He actually said, this is powerful. I hope it sells millions because the world needs this. And so I wrote this book, Pressure-Free Parenting. It's in 3 sections. The first section talks about the method, just shares my method right up front with you, the pressure-free method. And then the next section of the book, I talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So I talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. These are right here: physiological needs, safety needs, love and belonging, esteem, and self-actualization. And I go through each one of them and just kind of give a 21st century perspective about them. And then the last section I call age-specific stressors. So age-specific stressors are from pregnancy all the way through young adult and future generations. So creating a legacy with your adult children. I was just with one of my adult children this evening. He invited me to come to a networking event of American Marketing Association, the West Michigan chapter, and we were on the lakeshore. So then we decided to have dinner too because it was such a gorgeous night. So yeah, spending time with your adult children can be so rewarding and so beautiful, especially if you've really set it up through the ages. But even if you have adult children now and you wish you could have a deeper relationship with them or a different one than what's transpiring right now, you might find this book helpful. So it's right on Amazon. And if you're watching this and you want a free video copy of my book where you can just hit play and listen to me read it, I don't have an audio version. Audible wouldn't take my Audible version of this book, so I have a video version. Just let me know and I will give you a special link and you can have it for free as a gift for me. But the book's right on Amazon if you'd like to get a copy, Kindle version or hard copy or hardcover copy. Same thing with my CEO book. So let's dive into tonight's topic. Tonight, I really wanted to dig into habits of reaction. So we have these habits of reacting certain ways in certain situations that start from before we're even born, and they exacerbate over time. They become habits. I'm going to give you a couple examples that may ring true for you. So if you grew up in a household where if somebody spilled something, there was an instant reaction. There was a bunch of yelling maybe, or tension, or I can't believe you did that, or you're so clumsy. And maybe it wasn't directed at you, but a sibling or anybody else in the house. You may have picked up a habit of reacting to overreact when things spill. They say there's that old adage, don't cry over spilt milk. And yet, boy, I see it all the time. I see it out and about in the community. I see it in stores where if a child drops something, then there's this huge overreaction. I remember dropping something once, and because I still remember it means it was an event in my life, right? In this case, we were at Weirs Beach on Lake Winnipesaukee in New Hampshire, which has these big boardwalks, and there's arcades, and there's food vendors, and all of that. And I was with my parents, my sisters, my grandparents, and we had come by boat and gone up the big boardwalk, and and it's actually it has a slope to it where it goes down to the water and then up here to the main drag. And we stopped and got ice cream. I'm walking with the ice cream cone, and I don't even know how old I am, maybe 10. And we're going down, and the ice cream blob wasn't like put on the cone very well, and it fell off and it started rolling down the boardwalk, picking up splinters. Okay. My mother grabs it and puts it back on and expects me to eat it. I'm a little bit of a germaphobe, so like this was not going to happen, right? I don't recall much else other than that she overreacted like to this accident, right? And I'm sure I was overreacting and crying because my ice cream fell off, right? Anyway, it was a crap show, and I still remember it to this day. So I'm sure you have things like that in your past where somebody overreacted to something and you picked up a habit. Spilling things is one thing, dropping things, things having to do with driving, um, really so many situational things. And this is kind of going to be a strange one, but if you've been me and you watch me, then I'm just going to trust it's okay to share this with you. But I've been thinking about this one lately because several, I'm going to say a fairly high percentage of my clients will share with me that when they trigger the stress response, they have to go to the bathroom a lot. So they have to urinate a lot. Our bladder and sphincter muscles will relax and it can make us have to go or feel like we have to go. And then there's just like hardly anything when we actually try to use the restroom. And so I was thinking about how most of us, whenever we were going somewhere growing up, our parents would say, go to the bathroom before we leave. And I've been really thinking about this lately because I thought, okay, so if a child has like just naturally gone to the bathroom, say half an hour before it's now time to leave, and then we as parents were like forcing the child to now go again when they don't really need to go, are we creating a habit of reaction that actually has a biological consequence? So, I mean, it can get to the point where now you have to frequently urinate because you're afraid that you might go to the bathroom, need to go to the bathroom when you're driving somewhere or you actually get to the place or whatever. So there's like this overreaction. And so now you're peeing more frequently. So I'm really thinking about this lately. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but it's an anxiety-ridden situation. And it's exacerbated by the stress hormones. So if we overreact to the situation, then now we have to pee, feel like we have to pee even more. Um, so I think it's like you should be able to go 3 to 3.5, 4 hours in between times when you urinate. So just take a look at that. Is it natural, or do you find yourself doing it far more frequently, or you can notice that you triggered the stress response and now you're really doing it a lot. Um, and it's most natural that we should be able to go through the whole night with not having to. So there's a lot of factors, of course, around this, but I think some of the early training of habits of reaction and overreacting to certain things, a lot of people really stress out when you're leaving the house. And so we pick up those habits of reaction then. Is any of this landing? I hope it's landing. Like I hope it's I hope maybe you haven't experienced it, which would be a great thing, but maybe you've seen it, or you've noticed it. And of course, there's many different styles of parenting. Um, but I know that by coming to understand really what these hormones do to us, it makes so much sense to prevent them, no matter how we can prevent them. And certainly if we can start to notice from the moment we wake up until the moment we go to sleep, like what are our natural habits of reaction? Where are we overreacting to things? I see a lot of overreaction around money. A child may ask for something or want money for something, and there'll be a lot of response like, no, we can't afford that, or no, we're not going to do that right now. Here's another vignette from my life. So third grade, I wanted for Christmas for my present, I asked to get skis and ski boots. I really wanted to downhill ski. We'd been skating since we were tiny toddlers. I think it was 2 or 3 years old when my mother was teaching me to skate. But now, like, I really wanted to downhill ski. A lot of my friends were doing it. We lived across the street from this park where I could have free lessons. So Johnny Marchand, if you're ever out there, if anybody knows the Marchand family that lived on High Street, I'm pretty sure it was Johnny Marchand who taught me to ski. And to this very day, I'm grateful. Um, So anyway, I get them for Christmas. I'm so excited, and I learned how to ski just around, in White Park, which and I skied probably every possible hill there, even King Hill. Like I skied every hill. I slalom down King Hill. Um, and so I was so excited, right? Like I was gonna go to a real place, like a real ski resort, like Pat's Peak or Loon Mountain or someplace, right? Attitash. I was very excited. My parents grew up skiing. They grew up in the mountains on old wood skis. My mother skied Tuckerman's Ravine. Like they grew up skiing. So unfortunately, between my third grade Christmas and my fourth grade Christmas, we purchased our summer home on Lake Winnipesaukee, which my parents had been saving for. It's a big deal. And so when it came around to wintertime, and I was expressing that like I needed new ski boots. My ski boots didn't fit now. Like I'd outgrown the set from last year. And my parents said, "Oh, we're not going to downhill ski because we have the lake house now, so we're cross country ski and we'll skate. But we're not going to invest in downhill skiing." I was so crushed. Like I was extremely crushed. I still remember the feelings so much. Like I'm sure I cried. I'm sure I went to my room and cried. I was just like, I was really, really upset about this. And um, the habit of reaction that came into my head is that we can't afford downhill skiing. I can never downhill ski. Now, when I look at my family, both of my sisters would go skiing. They just rent skis all the time. My one sister was a snowboarder out in Tahoe, like, but I never did. It was like some barrier came up, and I'm sharing this so you can see for yourself where there's some barriers put up, just imaginary. Like my parents did say you could never ski, right? Just that they weren't going to buy me the next set, right? So that was a huge barrier, a huge thing came down. And I will never forget my youngest was 4, and at our symphony auction, oh, I have someone coming in, let me let them in. At our symphony auction, I went ahead and hold on, I'm going to pin myself real quick here. Let's see. I'll pin myself. Um, I purchased I did it 2 years in a row. I purchased this ski lodge package for our whole family to go skiing. And I think I was like the giddiest kid in the whole place the first time I ever sat on a chairlift and got to go up a chairlift. And I normally have a bit of a fear of heights, or rather a fear of falling. But here I was just like going up this mountain and I was so excited. And I could, so how old was I? Like 43, I think, 44. Anyway, I couldn't believe how easy it was for me to ski. Like I remembered everything. And so I'm so grateful for those lessons, but I can't believe I went like all that time, 3.5 decades, and didn't think I would be able to ski. Like I'm not, I can't ski because of what my parents told me. So we have these um, habits of ways of thinking, these limiting beliefs, people call them, these, it's not my favorite term, but these blocks, if you will. And they're so made up in our heads. They're not even real half the time. But because someone in an authority position may have told us something, or so we took it in so much that we have this fear of being able to do something. Um, so that's something to really reflect on. All the little habits of reaction, watching your own. So you built your own set and then you inherited some. So when you're watching through your day, just be real gentle with yourself, but just be like, I had no idea that I have a real strong habit of reaction whenever da 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 da. Like it could be something that your child does or your husband does. I have a real strong reaction to anything that smells like burning. Some people love the smell of a campfire. I don't love it so much because when I was tiny, my blanket caught on fire when I was sitting near a campfire. So almost burned. Like, so I have these if I smell something burning, I'm very concerned. I get concerned right away, and I definitely will trigger the stress response if I don't check myself. So let's finish this series with some ways that you can interrupt the stress response, particularly when you're noticing these habits of reaction that you have, because those habits can be so strong that it may take you a while to break that habit. That's why I say in pressure free, we are never in a hurry. We've got to be patient and gentle with ourselves and give ourselves a ton of grace because we are breaking patterns that are generations old. Maybe it could be back generations that people cried about spilled milk or whatever the habit of is that people are breaking. So the first tool that's coming up tonight that I think might be helpful is to, I call it soothe yourself, okay? If you've been with me, I talked about being a happy puppy and making sure your tail can wag. If you think about a dog or a cat or any mammal with fur, when you go to pet the cat or the dog, they usually want to have your hand go in the direction of the fur. Like there's a directionality. The hair shaft is pointing in a certain direction. And so we pet the cat or the dog in the direction of the fur. So we ourselves we are mammals and we have fur as well, or hairs. And if you take a look at your forearm, if you have some hairs on your forearm, you'll see that they go in a downward and outward direction, downward and outward direction. You'll see on your thighs that they have a downward direction. And so if you just take your hands and either go down the tops of your arms or down the tops of your thighs, it's very soothing to the nervous system. Don't rub back up. I was talking to someone who has connection with someone who has Tourette's, and they will very often rub down and up their legs, up and down, up and down. And what's happening is like it's soothe, activate, soothe, activate. So we want to only go in one direction and then pick it back up and come back down. And even on the forearm, you can swirl out and follow the path of your own hairs and just follow that path. And I come all the way down over my hand sometimes because we hold tension in our hands. We'll hold tension on our computers. We'll hold tension doing activities. And if you can get the tops of your hands really soft, I learned this from my body coach, Leo Veronica. I learned all this from her, this directionality thing. And the ability. And then I did more research to find how, yeah, it's an instant soother to the brain. Very quick little tool. For students that have trouble taking tests, they can just rub down their legs a few times, down like 5 to 10 times, and that will instantly soothe that nervous system so that they can stay present, have their head working for them. It tells the brain there's no reason to go into fight or flight, like so many of the tools that I teach you. But that's like a really, really simple tool. Another one that's kind of interesting, when I did the breathing, I think I taught you this, but take it a little further. So if you watch, you watch a child go to sleep, or even yourself, I did it last night. I noticed it last night. Like just before we go to sleep, we may kind of go like sniff in and then sigh out, like it's like this little thing. Dogs do it. I've seen my dogs do it over time. I've seen my children do it. I've done it. So that little sniff, sniff, sniff in, and then that release of a sigh, that also relaxes the nervous system. Another very quick little tool is pretend to yawn. So if you open your mouth really wide, like you're going to yawn, it creates the yawn reflex, and that settles the nervous system too. The strangest things will happen with my clients when I am coaching clients in a session. Usually it's about the 2/3 of the way mark, could be earlier. All of a sudden I can see that like they're trying to yawn. They're trying to hide their yawn, right? And I get so excited because I'm like, please yawn and please yawn big. Because part of my goal in a coaching session, especially if I'm working with someone at night who's worked a really hard day, I want to help their nervous system get settled. And so if they, through my voice and through my actions, that's a part of the purpose in my session, is to get them into a relaxed state. And if they start to yawn, I know I've achieved it. Like I get really excited about it. So yawning, sometimes like, oh, you're not paying attention or whatever. That's not the case. The nervous system's settling, so you need, and you want more oxygen in. So it's pulling more oxygen in. So that's kind of a really cool tool because you can fake a yawn and get that reflex to happen for you. Let's see, what other tools would be helpful that I should share here? Um, I think because our habits of reactions are often linked to emotions and feelings, I'm going to focus on that just for a moment to be helpful as we close this out. Um, Worrying. So you probably have some habits about what you worry about. People worry about money, they worry about health, they worry about their relationships, they worry about being late, um, they worry about other people. And so if you just kind of sit back for a moment and think about in the course of your day, is there something that you habitually worry about? And I think I shared this a couple nights ago, the idea of assuming success for someone. Instead of worrying about them, can you assume success for them? Can you assume that they're going to be fine? Can you assume that all is going to work out in a decent way? Can you open that possibility up? Because our worry creates a tension. It creates a tension in our own body, but it creates a tension in our energy field that impacts everyone around us, even people who are very far away from us. So it's fascinating how when we can take more control over our own energy field and keep it very open and light and flowing, that can actually help heal other people. You can hear about how the power of prayer is so incredible. People can be thousands of miles away, and that power of prayer can actually be proven today. So, so I think that, what just checking your worrying. Worrying is the first one. The next is complaining. We have habits about what we complain about. In fact, I heard that on average, Americans complain about time and weather up to 20 minutes a day, about 20 minutes a day. And then they complain they don't have enough time. So, so if you notice yourself complaining because it's too hot or too cold or too this or too that, um, see if you complain about weather a lot in your day. See if you complain about the news. Do you complain about what's happening politically? Um, if the energy is tight, then it's very easy for us to trigger the stress response. So complaining tends to create a tension. So worrying, complaining. The next is blaming or shaming. And a few nights ago, I talked about how easy it is to finger point and to blame when we're under the influence of these stress hormones because we're just looking for the answers. I was coaching a client the other day and she goes, "Oh, that's so true." She goes, I will instantly want to blame people or shame myself because of things going on that are so inconsequential, but we have this habit of reaction. So finger pointing, blaming. Let's see. Struggling. So we tend to have certain things we struggle over. Maybe if you're a student, you have a lot of trouble writing your papers or studying for certain classes. Maybe you struggle getting to school in the morning, that's a struggle for you. Uh, Taking a look and seeing what are your struggle points in the day. Do you have patterns of when you struggle? Do you struggle in the evening because you're tired? Like, what are those struggle points? And I feel like struggle is like, it's like the wall, like you're starting to hit the wall. So your effort's going really great. And then, all right, oh no, we're getting blocked, we're getting shut down. So when you can first start to notice that pushback, that tension, that is your chance to, and I would immediately go to an empowering question. How can I? How can I finish this paper easily? How can I get all my homework done tonight? How can I complete this easily? So I love using adverbs and adjectives in that empowering question because your brain loves descriptive words. So play with that interruption whenever you start to feel the wall, like you're feeling very tired or exhausted or like your brain isn't working very well. Just immediately ask for the question of how can I do this easily? And see what your brain comes up with. Remember, don't try hard. Let the brain work organically for you at that stage. So that could be helpful, especially when you notice struggling. The next are judging and comparing. So I don't have my phone near me right now, thank goodness. It's like, but the phone has become such a comparison object. Social media can really throw us into situations of feeling of comparing ourselves to others. Many of my clients will say that, they come clean, that yeah, I compare myself to my colleagues who have bigger homes or go on exotic vacations, like, and I'm barely making it through. Um, it's money is a real deal, comparing money, comparing clothes, comparing looks. Like we've just become more and more obsessed with that, I think. And so it's definitely a stress response issue because of feelings that if I'm not good enough, I might be pushed out of the tribe. So we can easily trigger over comparing ourselves to others, and also either judging others or feeling judged by others. Those are trigger points too. Um, and you probably have some habits around it, some habits about things about yourself that you feel judged. Maybe you have something on your face, like I have a mole here. A few years ago, it was really, really, really dark. It just came up, and now it's going away. I haven't done anything. It's just my face, right? But because we have such a like perfection society today, any sort of moles, like I've got a little one here, moles or flaws or anything like that can be things we are subconscious, we are what's the word? Not subconscious, but we're conscious about, and we're afraid that others will poke fun of it or make fun of us behind our back about it. Um, and most of the time people don't. Yeah, there are a few mean people in the world. That's a Jim Rohn quote, the sales guy. There's a few mean people in the world and they tend to circulate and get around a lot, but for the most part, people are pretty decent. I like to believe that. So, um, so yeah, so noticing any judging and comparing. All of those things that I just shared can just put you right on the edge of going into fight or flight. And then it could be one other trigger that just like piles on in the moment and boom, there you are. Speaking of piling on, that's what we tend to do when we trigger these hormones. Now we're in a place where it's easy to feel threatened by the smallest thing, even someone asking us for something. I clearly remember when one of my sons had asked if they could take my car out on a date, and I said, no, take the van. You can't have my car, right? I was very possessive about my car, which I normally am not. I was definitely under the influence of stress hormones because months later, the same child asked me if they could use my car. I'm glad they asked again, by the way, because we can get shut down and then not ever ask again. But he asked me again, and I just tossed him the keys and said, have a great night. Because I was not under the influence of hormones and feeling threatened that someone was going to take my stuff, take my car, right? So it's easy to feel threatened. It's easy to trigger over and over and over again. And when you can back that all out and not release those hormones, you're going to think more clearly. You'll probably be more generous. You'll probably be more generous to yourself as well. Um, and I'd like to finish out with that. I think I talked about, how important it is to kind of turn a key deep inside yourself to give yourself permission to have a beautiful life, to give yourself permission to live your life to the fullest, no matter what the challenges are and things coming at us. Like, how can you be open to the possibility of things being really beautiful for yourself? A lot of times we're doing everything for everybody, and we can be very altruistic, and it's not selfish to become pressure free, because the more pressure free you are, the more generous you are to the world. So it's interesting when we take care of our own health and we take care of us and we turn that key and say, I deserve to have a beautiful life. Um, Something really magical can start to happen. And I was in a conversation today with a potential client who was sharing how, we can't change other people, cannot change how they react and how they are. But if we become more and more pressure free, there's like this ripple effect, and people start to react differently around us because we are no longer overreacting. So it doesn't matter. I could be coaching a 10-year-old and they will actually start to change their home because of how they are not reacting to things anymore. I actually had a client in an office who asked me if they were truly powerful, because this person is not very loud and not very strong in appearance or in talk or anything, but she has become so pressure free that when she enters a situation in the office that's kind of heated, everyone calms down. Like it's just happening because her energy has become so big and so loving and so beautiful. So I just want to end on that point tonight. This series, if you want to get all the videos, I'm going to put them up on my YouTube channel, but I'm also going to create a page of all the videos from this 5 nights. And so it'll take me a little, maybe a couple days to do that because I'm traveling next couple of days. But by next Monday, that will all be up, and you can go ahead and take a look, take anything you need out of this. And you know I'm always here for you. So if you ever want a conversation, just book a call with me on my website, and that's lingalls.com, which is my name, or pressure-free.com. So I'm going to close out the Facebook Live and talk to people on Zoom. Have a great one. Let's see.